Hello and welcome to the See Through podcast, brought to you by Herman's Auctioneers here in Rathmines. Today we're joined by Sinead Kearns, Director of Herman and White Estates, to talk to us about in particular about the rental market and about how renters can help themselves to try and get somewhere to rent in this very, very difficult climate. Sinead, thanks for coming in.
No problem.
So, start off a little bit. Tell me about you.
What about me? Okay, so I kind of fell into the property market. So I was actually buying a house with my sister at the time, and in order to get a mortgage, I needed to get a better job because at the time I was a lifeguard on very low wages. So I needed a change of career to get a mortgage, and I happened to just fall into an auctioneers in Rathnew. So it was house sales and lettings because I was going through the process at the time as well. It all kind of just filled in, really. So ever since then, I started as a receptionist there. They put me through at the time, which was the IAVI course. Did a couple of house sales with them, and then Anne decided to retire, so she moved to France and the place closed. So there was a blip where I was in Euroconnect, which is a credit card payment company. So I was there for about 2 years, and then the job here came up. So I was on 6 months maternity leave. That was my original contract, and that was in 2009, and now I am up. Up at the top.
Look at me now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not bad from 6 months maternity contract.
Exactly. So you weren't always interested in property. It's just something that kind of,
It's not even a field I ever even thought about. Never even crossed my mind until I was in it, and then realised it's actually really interesting. And then once I came up here, then I got more into the management side of it, and the management is really where the interest is because every day is completely different. You never get the same request from tenants, landlords. There's always a different tilt to it, different slant to it, and it's just what makes everything so interesting.
From that point, like where in your work do you get the most enjoyment?
I think it's like basically like everybody's a job well done. And a job where you know you've put your best into it, that you've done everything you possibly can, especially when it's a convoluted issue that's going on that leads to another issue, say in a house renovation or just a random issue that comes up. And it's just knocking things off bit by bit, keeping everybody informed, and just to say, I did everything I could. We did everything we possibly could, and this is where we're at and what we've done. And I think you can go home and go, I achieved something today.
And looking at it now, what do you think the major changes have been in your career? So from 2009 to today, what do you think are the major adjustments or changes in the kind of market?
The biggest one is the RTB, the introduction of the RTB and the subsequent amendments of the Residential Tenancies Act. It's just made everything a lot more restrictive, not on the landlord, but on agents as well. And I can see why it's in. I can absolutely understand. There's a lot of it that's over-regulated. There needs to be some sort of a back adjustment as well. But that's the biggest thing in the management side, the letting market, is the introduction of the RTB and everything that goes with that.
So obviously that regulation was brought in to try and to regulate an unregulated market, which in fairness needed to happen.
And look, everybody knows about slum landlords. Everybody wants to see the back of a slum landlord. How any of them could even still be operating now at the minute is beyond me. We would never have dealt with any kind of landlord like that anyway, but this just makes it easier. If somebody approaches you, just say, look, you're not up to the housing standards. We can't touch that until you need to do the work.
Yeah. Do you think that is impacting, that the level of regulation is impacting on landlords not entering into the market but staying in the market? Because I know the big talk is there's no supply for tenants, which is a national crisis. It's a crisis above landlords or tenants or anything like that. It should be something that's dealt with at national level. But do you think the regulation is making, it's said that it's making people move out of the market. Do you think that's happening?
It is to a certain point. It's the accidental landlords that are getting out because of the regulation and the tax and all of that, because they never wanted to be in it in the first place. It was just something that happened. So they inherited somewhere, or whatever the reason, or like they bought somewhere, had to move country for work or whatever. But they're the ones that are really getting out of the market. The investors are there because that's their business. They know how it works. They know what the returns are. So they're always going to be there. But I don't think anybody realised how many accidental landlords there are until this started happening.
Yeah.
And a lot of them as well, it's not just that they're selling and they're getting out of the market, they're actually giving it to family because family can't find anywhere.
I think a big problem for tenants as well, though, is that a lot of these landlords, not necessarily that we would deal with as an agency, but a lot of landlords are big funds. Do you think that's becoming a problem in Ireland?
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're the only ones in funds to actually do anything, especially with the interest rates.
Yeah.
They're really the only ones. And as I said, it's their business. So they're always going to be there. They're looking at the market trends. They're looking at when's the best to buy, when's the best to sell. So they're the ones that are going to swoop in.
You've recently become a director of Herman White.
Yes.
For your sins. Can you tell everyone about your ambitions and your goals for the company?
Well, I think the main ambition really is just to continue on the business that obviously David Herman and Charles White have built up over the years. It's a fantastic business. It's absolutely amazing. And I'd hate to not do them justice by not carrying on what they have done, but also to make it bigger, make it better. Going down avenues that we never explored with Charles and David at the helm, and just to bring it up into the modern standards as well, and just kind of get it to where we need it to be as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of touched on it a bit, but saying that properties to rent have become increasingly scarce over the years. So, you know, thousands of applications might be received for, you know, a single property you guys put up on your systems, but it can be really intimidating. So what kind of advice would you offer to people who are looking to rent or need to rent somewhere in Dublin?
I think the best advice is don't panic, because when you panic, you come across wrong or pushy, or it just doesn't sit right. And a lot of it is the right tenant for the right property from our point of view and from a landlord's point of view. So if you're coming in panicking, you're going to give off the wrong vibe. We completely understand, don't get us wrong, completely understand why you could be panicking. But the best thing is have your references to hand and have them as detailed as you can. It's what's not said in a reference is what we're looking for. So it's that kind of a thing. So just get the best reference that you can, have everything ready to go, your deposit, your first month's rent, everything, all your paperwork, and do not offer anything extra to try and get your application over the line, because that's going to put you down at the bottom of the list. It's hard not to do it, and I can understand why people do it, but it just doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
And it won't go well for your application.
Why is that, do you think?
It's desperation for people, and I saw it before in the recession as well, where they're just so desperate, they need accommodation, and they're willing to put anything in your hand to try and get their application over the line. But we just can't. It's ethically and morally wrong. You can't. You're taking advantage of people who are in a desperate situation. And the worst thing about it is, most of the time, the people that do that are the ideal applicant and probably would have gotten it only for they've gone down that road.
What sort of supports are there for renters in the market at the moment?
There's quite a lot of supports. Financially, there's the tax rebates from the government at the moment. So if they contact their agent or landlord, get your RT number, get your tax back. Then there's also the likes of Threshold and the RTB for advice, RTB for any dispute resolution. But Threshold seems to be a good service as well. We have interacted a lot with them. They try to go down the mediation route before you go anywhere as well. But a lot of it is just giving information. But I would say the first port of call is contact your agent or your landlord directly. A lot of disputes don't even need to go down the RTB route. Just have a conversation. It doesn't need to be an argument. It just needs to be a conversation.
But when the conversating doesn't work, when the chat is not going to work.
Yeah, because
obviously
it won't always work.
Yeah, the RTB seems to be an environment that is, for all its flaws, somewhat functioning.
It is. Now, the best service is the mediation service, the phone mediation, because the tenant isn't having to take time out of their day to go to it out of work. Same with the landlord. It's all over the phone. There's back and forth. It can go on as long as you need it to. They will put a time limit on it, but the back and forth can go on as long as you need to. And if there's no agreement reached, it can be brought on then to the tribunal. If there is agreement reached, even better.
In terms of the HAP scheme that's there and the other schemes for the government, do you think, like, you're at the coalface seeing people trying to rent, you're at the coalface renting to people, do you think the HAP scheme is working?
Absolutely. It is. I think to a point it's working too well, because there is a lot of people we come in seeing that are on HAP, and you just wonder how are they even eligible for that, because they're on quite good money in whatever job they're in. But then there is the other end of the scale where you're just so glad to see that they had some sort of a hand, because they literally would be on the street. And it's a brilliant service. The HAP service, anytime we've had to ring them up for anything, they're very helpful, very informative, and they'll tell you exactly what you need to know. And there's no judgment about them. I find them very easy to deal with.
And I think it's probably something that a lot of people don't think they can avail of. They think it's, like you said there's a lot of people on HAP that you're surprised they're on it.
Yeah.
So therefore, obviously, there's a lot of people who aren't availing of HAP who could be.
Absolutely, because there's all different tiers of it. So there's the ordinary HAP, there's the homeless HAP. I'm sure there's probably other sections I haven't even heard about. But you are allowed to work while you go on HAP, whereas I think rental allowance at the time, I don't think you were allowed on it. I think that might have changed, or the HAP might have brought that in together. But you are allowed to work. You are allowed to work to a certain point. But from what I understand, once you're in the HAP system, if you get promoted or you get a higher wage, you can remain in the HAP system. Yeah. Just your contributions to HAP itself and or the level of what you get is reduced. It's all means tested.
Do you think the government needs to do more?
I think they do. And I think what they need to do, they're not going to do, which is completely tear down the whole system that's there and put one in place that works. Do some sort of England, the model in England works really well because everybody knows where they stand. The same, there's a European model as well where it's price per square footage per area. So no matter what happens, you know that's what you're going to get. And that's it. Like there's no fighting against that. That's what it is. Yeah. Now, I'll probably be shot by the investors because there's no way of growing the return. But then you're not going to get the slump either. Yeah. Where you might have to actually halve the rent in, say, 7 or 8 years to come. You might have to halve the rent in order just to get it filled. Yeah. It's a balancing act, but I think the system that's there's been too many patches put on it, and each patch at this stage is not holding. Something needs to change.
What's your favourite part of your job?
Working with you, of course.
Save that clip. Save that clip.
With the Christmas party on loop. The favourite part of my job, I think, as I said, going home feeling that you've achieved something. You've either found somebody, the perfect home, who's going to be just so happy there as long as they want to be there or can be there. Just basically a sense that you've done everything you possibly can. I don't like going home thinking I've done a half-hour's job. Because I just can't. Yeah.
all the heavy questions, out of the way now. Get to the fun ones now. Sinead, what's your favourite colour?
My favourite colour, I think, is purple.
Why?
I don't know. It's really calm, and I think it reminds me of lavender. I love the smell of lavender, but I just like purple.
Serenity.
Yeah.
Very good. So you were trapped in a desert island. What are your three items you're bringing with you?
It's probably cheating a little bit.
Okay.
Right.
We've allowed
some cheating. Yeah.
So the first one is a pig, because I'm a meat eater, and you can use every part of a pig, even the hairs on its back for a toothbrush. You can use every part of it.
Yeah.
Swear, I've thought about this over the years.
Unprepared.
We're not the first people to ask Sinead this question, clearly.
Yeah.
The second one is Bear Grylls, because he'd know what to do with that pig, and he'd know where to get water.
Yeah.
And the third one is the satellite phone, so he can cook me a meal while I'm ringing for help.
You could build a boat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good answer. Yeah.
Okay, apart from the pig you're bringing to the island, what's your death row meal?
It has to be sushi.
Really?
And my son would agree with me. He absolutely loves sushi.
Very good.
Love sushi.
Delish.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your most prized possession?
Possession? The material stuff I don't care about, but it has to be my family.
Yeah.
Work or home family, doesn't matter.
Very good.
Keep
very
everyone
good.
happy here.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Very good.
So, thanks a million for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about Herman's Auctioneers, you can do so on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and download our app, the Herman's app, on iOS and Android. If we want to find out about Sinead, we don't want to find out Sinead because Sinead doesn't have any social media. But if we want to find out about Herman and White Estates, where do we go?
Well, hermanwhite.ie. And yeah, we are on social media in Instagram, Facebook, X or whatever it's called now, ZG, Twitter, whatever. Just type in Herman White, you'll find us.
Very good.
Thanks so much.
Right, that's a wrap.